There's a moment most of us have lived through where we absolutely knew times we were right, and yet somehow we still ended up being the one who had to say sorry. I'm talking about that specific, almost insulting flavor of conflict where the facts were on your side, the logic was airtight, and yet the relationship was quietly bleeding out on the floor while you stood there holding your receipts like some kind of righteous accountant who just lost all their friends. It started with something small. It almost always does. A misread tone in a message, a comment that landed wrong, a moment where one person felt dismissed and the other felt falsely accused. And suddenly, what began as a Tuesday became a Cold War with no declared start date and no clear rules of engagement. Here's the thing about being right. It is one of the loneliest places you can stand. You can be 100% factually correct, have the timestamped texts, the witnesses, the emotional receipts, and still watch a relationship quietly drift toward the exit while you clutch your moral high ground like it's beachfront property in a flooding city. The catalyst wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming, no door slamming, just the unbearable silence of someone who used to respond immediately, now taking 23 hours to say cool. Psychologists call this relational withdrawal. That slow pulling back that signals something beneath the surface has shifted. And what's so insidious about it is that it can feel like overreaction from the outside, while feeling like self-preservation from the inside. And both people are telling themselves they're the rational one. I had to sit with a genuinely uncomfortable question. Was I preserving my integrity, or was I just too proud to bend? History gives us a clue here. Every long-term relationship, personal or professional, that survives conflict does so not because one party was always right, but because at least one party was willing to prioritize the connection over the verdict. So I decided to apologize not for the facts, but for the impact. The words I used were careful and deliberately non-transactional. I didn't say, "I'm sorry times," if times you felt hurt, which is the conversational equivalent of a counterfeit bill. It looks like currency, but it buys nothing. Instead, I said, "I can see that how I handled that made you feel unseen, and that matters to me more than whether I was technically right." The outcome surprised me, and honestly, it kind of annoyed me, because it worked almost immediately. That moment cracked something open. The other person exhaled, said they'd also been holding on to something they hadn't said. And within one conversation, we'd moved from a cold standoff to something that actually felt times closer, times than before the conflict, which is the deeply ironic plot twist nobody tells you about apologizing strategically and sincerely at the same time. Discipline, patience, and the humility to play a longer game will always outperform the short-term satisfaction of being right. And if that resonates with you even a little, subscribe and check out all our other topics.